Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Can You Talk Real Quick, a stand-up with Pete Dominic production where I reach out to one very special expert guest and have a quick conversation with them. Turn it around real quick, get it up for you to get it down. You know, I upload it, so you download it. Are you with me? Anyway, I talked to former federal prosecutor, good friend of mine, and fellow bald brother, the great Glenn Kirschner, and we had plenty to talk about because tomorrow, or whenever you're listening to this, the 18th Tuesday, big day for the Trump documents, stolen documents case where he stole tons of documents and shared them with anybody who basically wanted to see him and then just put them on the stage for everybody. That whole case, Jack Smith has brought the special prosecutor, well, Aileen Cannon, whose name we've gotten to know. Will we get to see her, or will it just be that headshot? Anyway, Judge Aileen Cannon is supposed to set a trial date. Trump wants her to get rid of it. Let's just not do it at all. We'll wait till after the election. And Jack Smith is like, nah, that's going to do it right now. What will she do? What will she say? We've got that. And also all the other updates and Glenn's analysis on what else is happening. Great conversation with Glenn Kirschner. You should go subscribe to his YouTube channel. Follow him on all the social medias. Listen to his new podcast. I'm always happy when he joins me. I called him up and said, Glenn, can you talk real quick? He always says yes. Let's do it. All right. There he is. Glenn Kirschner. Good to see you. I have many questions. Are you prepared?
Let's do it, Pete.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, big deal. I'm going to put this out as soon as I can because huge deal tomorrow or Tuesday, July 18th, whenever you're watching or listening to this. It's called the pre-trial conference to discuss procedures for handling the classified document case. The first courtroom arguments before Judge Aileen Cannon. That's happening for the first time since Trump was indicted 5 weeks ago. It's a big deal. And as you said on YouTube and elsewhere, she's already failed her first test. What should we expect on this major test on Tuesday?
You know, Pete, I'm kind of on pins and needles because, you know, what have we seen from Donald Trump over about the last 24 hours? He has been lavishing praise and adoration on Judge Cannon. She's so smart. She's so big. She's so strong. And she so loves our country. I'm taking a little bit of liberty there, but not much with what he said on the Sunday shows. Now, let's look back to see what he said about all of the other judges who presided over his cases and trials. They are Trump haters. They're horrible people. Judge Marchand, Judge Kaplan. Are you kidding me? They have no. And then, I mean, listen, he's nothing if not completely and pathetically predictable. And the question for tomorrow, Pete, is will flattery get him everywhere and everything he wants? Or will she set a responsible trial date? The prosecutors have been asking repeatedly for a December 2023 trial date. That would be timely. That would be kind of heartland for purposes of setting a trial date 4 months down the road. Donald Trump has told Judge Cannon through his lawyers, no. You will set no trial date at all. Why? Well, because my motions are going to be so big and powerful and beautiful and persuasive that you will dismiss this case against me. I'm barely paraphrasing his motion. So, yes, she's already failed one test and was smacked down by the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. She was found to have abused her discretion to Donald Trump's significant advantage. Tomorrow is the next big test. So we'll see how she performs.
He wants the trial to be delayed until after the election for obvious reasons, so then he can just get rid of everything. It's just going to go away one day. Everything's just going to go away like the virus. And Jack Smith answered, and he apparently is not playing in his answer. He said, this is ridiculous. We can do this. It's not like anything before, but we can absolutely get this on the books in a timely, speedy trial-like manner, like the Constitution says. Is that right?
Yeah, and the defendant has a right to a speedy trial. We, the people, have a right to a speedy trial, too. So let's see what she does. I can predict what she'll do, Pete. I think she'll probably split the baby. Judges love to be Solomonic, and she'll probably say, look, I'm going to set a trial date. Not exactly for December. Maybe I'll set it for like February. Give Trump and company another couple of months to prepare. But God help us if she actually goes with Trump's ask, which is set no trial date. None. Of course, if you have to, push it well beyond the presidential election. But our request is that you set no trial date. That's absurd. That actually violates the federal law, which is the Speedy Trial Act. Says when somebody's charged, a judicial officer shall set a date certain for the trial to begin.
And that would be smack in the middle of primary season if it were February or March. If she schedules it then, I think people are obviously all looking at the presidential campaign and the schedule there from the debates to the primaries, and as it coincides with these cases being scheduled. So we're on watch. Alison Gill says we're on indictment watch. So we've been talking about the classified documents case that Judge Aileen Cannon's looking at, but we've got Jack Smith and Fonnie Willis. You got Jack Smith on January 6th, and you got Fonnie Willis on the phone call. Can you find me a few more votes? And my understanding is those could be coming down any day, any week here at the end of July, early August.
Yeah, the Georgia indictment will drop in August. Why am I confident of that? Because District Attorney Fonnie Willis did something that I have never heard another prosecutor do in my 30 years. She reached out to the court and she said, judges, do me a favor. Set no trials for 2 weeks in August. Set no in-person proceedings for 2 weeks in August. The message that she was delivering is we are going to take up 2 weeks of your time running through your courtrooms, dozens and dozens of defendants who will be indicted in a big old conspiracy indictment, and each one will need to have their arraignment hearing. That's going to take up a lot of time. You don't tell a judge to clear his or her dockets unless you mean business.
Just one question on that, which you've talked at length about. Of course, Trump's judges tried to get that dismissed. They went to the Georgia Supreme Court and said, just get rid of this Fonnie Willis thing. This is absurd. And what's gone on? What happened?
Yeah. So he filed an extraordinary writ. That's what we call it. It's a petition for a writ of mandamus.
Yeah, you can't say that on the show, actually.
That's a mouthful.
Just saying, it's a family program.
So let me break down what a petition for a writ of mandamus is. Basically, if a trial court judge is acting unlawfully, right, is refusing to perform a clearly established legal duty, then you can petition the court for a writ of mandamus because your rights are being violated, none of which applies in Donald Trump's case. He's actually asked the appellate court, the Supreme Court of Georgia, to, one, throw away, quash, tear up and throw away the special grand jury report recommending people be indicted. Two, prohibit District Attorney Fonnie Willis from ever introducing any incriminating evidence in any proceeding, criminal or civil, that was derived from the special purpose grand jury investigation. And three, disqualify Fonnie Willis and presumably her whole prosecutorial team. It's so laughable. It's so stupid. But this is what this petition says to the Georgia State Supreme Court.
And what's the Georgia State Supreme Court going to say about it?
Deny it without comment.
Okay, so then you got Jack Smith, and he's bringing the heat on January 6th. What could that look like? You've been following this, reading the tea leaves. I know it's really hard to figure out what the hell they're doing, but what could it look like? You've examined it in a lot of ways. And by the way, when are we talking on that one?
Yeah, I mean, my magic 8-ball is in the shop, but I think it is likely to come this fall. When you're a prosecutor, you don't tie anything to an election cycle, but you do remain cognizant of the election cycle. So I think Jack Smith appreciates the need for speed here, and he has been moving with speed and alacrity ever since he was appointed in November. What it looks like, it's going to look at one of two things. I hate to hedge my bets here. It will either be a relatively modest indictment of Trump and a few of his sort of top criminal associates, Mark Meadows, Rudy Giuliani, and then future indictments will add defendants and add charges, what we call superseding indictments. Or Jack Smith may just, drop the big enchilada on us from jump and say, here is the great big conspiracy indictment. There's a crime in the federal law. We call it a 371 conspiracy, section 371 of Title 18 of the United States Criminal Code. And it says, if you conspire to commit any crimes against the United States or defraud the United States in any way, like out of our free and fair elections, you can be charged as part of a big old 371 conspiracy. So Jack Smith may bring all of the crimes, the January 6 crimes, the fake elector crimes, the unlawful pressure on Mike Pence crimes under one big conspiracy indictment, and he may drop that one right out of the chute. So it really is, what is Jack Smith's preference? To start narrow and go large, or just do it all at once up front for maximum effect?
Wow, I never really heard the possibility of all of that. But if that happened, I can't imagine what that would look like and how we would unpack that. That would be huge. I mean, that would be it would be such a big, giant case to try to unravel.
Pete, look at the modest little series of crimes back during Watergate, and something like 48 people went to prison or were convicted. Come on now. That was shoplifting as compared to this mass murder. If you want to talk about the sort of the level of criminality, Watergate versus January 6th. So I would expect far more people to be indicted, convicted, and go to prison than we saw indicted and convicted in Watergate.
Wow, yeah. So you'd be looking at Giuliani and Meadows and Sidney Powell and John Eastman
and Jeffrey Clark, the DOJ official that corrupted and weaponized the Department of Justice, and on and on and on. Flynn and Bannon and Stone. I mean, there are so many.
Right. Yeah. Yes. John Voight, did he do anything wrong? Did John Voight, can we get him for anything?
No, I can't go there. I don't want to slander the man's name, even if it's, politics are interesting.
Fair enough. All right. So what is this? You've been railing on YouTube and everywhere else on Jared Kushner, and you've said that you hope, apparently he testified to the federal grand jury about Trump's January 6 crimes. And your question, of course, is, did he tell the truth? And your hope is that he did not.
Yeah. So if he told the truth, he incriminates his father-in-law. If he lied, he incriminates himself. So the truth, this would take a long time to unpack. I wish we had the time to do a crim law class. So the truth coming out of a guy like Kirschner doesn't really mean much because he's such a cruddy potential witness that nobody wants to put him on the stand. As a prosecutor, I don't want to buddy up with him as my witness and urge a jury to convict anybody based on the words of Jared Kushner. But if he lies, that's like a win-win, because then he can and will, I predict, given the prosecutor Jack Smith is, be indicted for perjury, obstructing justice, obstructing the grand jury investigation by lying, perhaps accessory after the fact, because if you tell lies to help the target of the investigation get away with his crimes, you're an accessory after the fact to his crimes. He could be part of a conspiracy. So then he can be charged with all of that, and he can be converted into a cooperating witness, held accountable for his crimes, which gives you the opportunity to present him to a jury in a more palatable, more credible way if he's taking responsibility for his own crimes and then talking about the crimes of others.
But there's no, I mean, we can't know what he said, but Trump was railing. I don't know if you saw the reporting on it or what he's been saying, but I hear he's not happy that Jared, I think Ivanka too talked to the federal grand jury, no?
I don't remember seeing reporting about her testifying, but she may have. I may have missed it.
I mean, it's a pretty crazy situation that he would be talking to Jack Smith's investigators, right?
Crazy that he would be talking and telling the truth. But here's the thing. Yeah. A lot of people will say, well, he'll just say, I don't recall. And I wish everybody would accept that I don't remember is not a perjury-proof answer. If they put me in the grand jury, Mr. Kirschner, what's your middle name? I don't remember.
Right.
That's obviously perjury. When Bill Barr was asked under oath by Kamala Harris, did anybody at the White House, including Donald Trump, ask you to open a criminal investigation on somebody? He humming it around and struggled with words like suggested. And then what he said was, I don't know. Well, that's a lie, because he does know. And Pete, if I had to accept I don't know or I don't remember from every witness in the grand jury or at trial, I would never have convicted anybody. There are ways around it. There are ways to attack it.
What do you think of Jack Smith and the way he's handled this? Because we all of us watched and you were starting your videos then and everything, the whole Mueller investigation. We're all like experts on special prosecutors, except for none of us are, but you are. And, we've been watching this one now unfold, and it's interesting to see some of the people that worked on Mueller's investigative team on television talking about and reading the tea leaves on what Jack Smith is doing. But how would you compare the way that Jack Smith is conducting himself, or how this is a completely different situation, right, than the Russia investigation with Trump?
It is different. And of course, Bob Mueller was laboring under that ridiculous Office of Legal Counsel opinion that says we don't think it's a good idea to indict or prosecute a sitting criminal president, which is the stuff of banana republics. But Jack Smith has free rein to prosecute based on the evidence he finds. I will also say some of my former homicide prosecutors from the DC U.S. Attorney's Office are part of Jack Smith's team. These are some of the best criminal litigators our nation has to offer. So I have been completely encouraged and impressed by what Jack Smith has done since being appointed only in November. He hasn't been special counsel all that long. And he ran right through Donald Trump's criminal defense attorneys, and he put them in the grand jury against their client because he litigated in scorched earth fashion the attorney-client privilege and how it yields, how it goes away if the client is using the lawyer in furtherance of committing crimes. He won that litigation. That's not litigation, Pete, that we often bring because of the sanctity of the attorney-client relationship and the attorney-client privilege that says you can't have an attorney testify against their client. Jack Smith said, yeah, just watch me. And then people said, you can't put a former vice president in the grand jury to testify about and incriminate the president he served. And Jack Smith said, hold my beer. He has run through every difficult legal issue and he won each one. He shied away from no challenge, Pete. And that's what I like. That's what I like to see in a prosecutor. Somebody who takes on the hard fight, even at the risk of losing, because he knows it's the right thing to do. And he will suffer the criticism that comes in the event he loses.
Right.
So I have been completely impressed, and it leaves me optimistic that we're going to see charges for the insurrection.
You made a really great video taking on the Oversight Committee, Republicans specifically, who went after the current FBI director, who you're no fan of, Christopher Wray, who is a dyed-in-the-wool conservative, a Federalist Society guy appointed by Trump. And they went after him hard and said that he was basically defending the Biden administration and liberals and targeting conservatives. They said it over and over. And obviously, you worked at Department of Justice. You understand the political ideologies of those working in the FBI, and it's always overwhelmingly been leaning conservative. It's a kind of a ridiculous thing. I mean, it's not a very well-kept secret. What do you want to say about what happened the other day at the oversight hearing and how Christopher Wray was treated by Jim Jordan and the rest?
Yeah, so I would agree that the FBI tends to skew conservative politically, but it's also my experience that generally they don't let politics come into their law enforcement work. They just don't. Now, we've seen some of it in recent years, and it's unfortunate, and we have to work to stamp it out. But, it's no surprise to me that Jim Jordan and Matt Gaetz and the whole rest of the clown show are attacking the FBI and trying to help Donald Trump avoid being held accountable for his crimes for two easy reasons. One, they don't want to lose the support of Donald Trump's base, one, because all they really care about is being reelected. And two, a number of them asked for pardons because they knew they had committed crimes on January 6th, and they want to get away with those crimes. Yeah. Who will be investigating those crimes and holding them to account? The FBI. So who is it they have to attack, try to undermine, defund, decommission, destroy? The FBI, the people who ultimately may very well hold them accountable for their crimes. Of course, Jim Jordan and company are going to try to take down the FBI.
Crazy thing to say and believe that that's where we're at. Finally, just wanted to ask you, you're a former Army JAG guy, and you saw this same group of guys who are talking about the Oversight Committee and Republicans in the House voting for this National Defense Authorization Act, and they had all these different amendments to get rid of DEI and obviously any transportation for a woman to get, health care, to end her pregnancy potentially. And it was a whole controversy, and people think DEI, and my question to you is, there's a huge problem with white supremacy and white nationalism within the military. We see these domestic former veterans too often, terrorists doing terrible things or plotting to do terrible things. This has been an issue for a long time. We also know that there's a sexual harassment and assault and rape epidemic within the military. You know about this, unfortunately, far too well, having seen some of it and prosecuted some of it. And I'm wondering what you think about just the idea of there being programming in. I understand you come in the military as you are, but once you're there, we're going to help you understand how to be a thoughtful, open-minded, mature man who is, anti-racist and anti-sexist somehow. Like, that would be a good thing to program in, I think. Don't you?
Yeah, when I was active duty Army, we had more training than I can ever remember. And when it comes to things like white nationalism and prejudice and homophobia in the military, does it exist? Of course it exists. It exists everywhere in society. And the military is a microcosm of the larger society. But, it's funny, Pete, because as we talk about this, I think about how I had to go to the Troop Medical Clinic, the TMC. And one of the things they do is they put more shots in your arm. They inoculate you against, 28 different things. They don't even tell you what they are. It's just like boom, 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 boom. I have no problem with programs that are designed to inoculate soldiers against racism, homophobia, sexual assault, etc. In my experience, Pete, I was active duty 6.5 years, and I loved my time as an Army JAG officer. It was a pretty a quality. What's the term? If ever there was kind of a community where race didn't matter so much, it was all about, I've got your back, you've got mine. If we have to jump in the same foxhole together, I don't care anything about your race, your religion, your ethnicity, your national origin, your sexual preferences. I don't care. We're all in this endeavor together to protect one another and to do right by the American people. And my experience was it was a pretty fair and equal place. We had our problems. And when we have problems in the military, we have to inoculate against them, whether that's shots in the arm or training to try to drive home the fact that you cannot be prejudiced, homophobic, misogynistic, et cetera, or frankly, you need not apply to the military.
Glenn Kirschner, everybody. I appreciate you sharing that answer and experience as well as everything else. Always a pleasure, my friend. And we'll see what happens tomorrow, huh? Big day. Pretty big day.
Can't wait, Pete.
I mean, she's not going to, Aileen Cannon's not going to just there's no way she's going to tank it, right? You say she'll cut the baby, but there's no way she's in the tank for him.
You know what, Pete? She's got life tenure on the federal bench. She's a fairly young lawyer. I can't imagine she is just going to want to throw her reputation completely down the crapper. I hope she's learned from the lesson that was delivered to her by the appellate court when they found she abused her discretion. Unless you are just corrupt to your core and you just don't care about retaining any respectability as a judge, I believe there's a chance she's going to start doing the right thing.
Right. I hope you're right. All right, sir. Thank you very much.
Great seeing you, Pete.
All right. There you go. Glenn Kirschner. A quick turnaround for that conversation. And I hope you appreciate it. If you do, sign up for a paid subscription right now. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic. Also rate and review the show on Spotify and iTunes and all of the rest of the things that you're supposed to do. Tell your friends, make friends, and then tell them, take your phones from your kids and subscribe on the podcast app to this podcast, Stand Up with Pete Dominic. All right. We'll talk to you later. Thanks, Glenn Kirschner. Go follow him. Bye-bye.
When you can't see the forest for the burning trees, you